Well, it's that time again. I'm going to rebuild my secondary computer again. Though this time, I think it's going to be more permanent. I did swap out my motherboard for something a little more nicer. I'm still using my 2080 Super I got off eBay a few days ago. And really, specs-wise, it's basically the same. It still has my Ryzen 5 5600G. 2 TB NVMe boot drive, 2 TB mechanical spool drive for bulk storage, a 850 watt Linear SFX power supply, 32 gigs of 3600 megahertz RAM, and of course my new motherboard. And I'm going to be using the Johnspo case I did a previous video on. That way so I can actually utilize this case for once instead of just having it sitting in the box collecting dust. Because like I said in the previous video, even though I had issues with my motherboard and computer, this case right here is a fantastic case. So with that said, I'm going to wait for one more item to come in. It's supposed to come in today, and those are my fans. But I'll come back if they come in or they don't come in. Because I am still going to build the computer today. I just want to see if those fans are actually supposed to come in today. I think it'll be a good opportunity to test this thing out to make sure it works before the fans come in, before I actually start building, because I don't want to be putting this thing together, get it all done, and find out that it doesn't work. So I'm going to figure out which pins are for on off and come. Alright, figured out which pins it is. It's these two right here. Alright, I got fan spin, I got debug LEDs, I have my little screen hooked up right here. And it should hopefully post in a bit. Fans are ramping down. It's more than likely training the RAM. That's why it's doing this right now. Okay, looks like we got a different set of LEDs. Fans ramping down again. A bit of dust blew off on the fans. Alright, this is probably going to take a little bit, so I'll come back. Alright, I got to post. I went to the BIOS and I told it to boot from the thumb drive now. And it should pop up on screen here in a little bit. Alright, so next step is to install Windows. I'll come back when I get that done. Alright, my fans did in fact come in today. I bought quite a bit. They came directly in from China. And they are DHL'd over here, so over air. So more than likely that Chinese balloon now shot down a day ago was also carrying my fans. Now when it comes to the computer, everything seems to be working. I'm currently in the process of Windows going through the next step. So I should be getting to the desktop fairly shortly. Alright, now I'm at the desktop. So the next step for me to do is to burn the DVD to a thumb drive so I can actually get all my drivers and whatnot installed for this board. Because let's be honest, this thing in this little sleeve right here is a CD instead of a thumb drive, which is something MSI does and yet ASRock doesn't do. So that's going to take like 5-10 minutes, so I'll be right back when that's done. And of course it has to have Norton on the CD. Go figure, who the fuck uses Norton in 2023? Alright, so I got Windows installed and whatnot. I tore everything down again so I can start mapping everything out inside the case. And I want to pull this little dongle out because this little dongle goes to this little all-in-one keyboard that's really meant for the computer I have hooked up to this TV here. But when I go to pull the dongle out, as you can see, it's not wanting to come out. So we got some issues of ASRock. That is not some good quality control because nothing I do will allow this, will get this thing out. It's physically stuck in the actual port itself. I have no idea how this happened. This is a brand new board. So how there is a defect like this is beyond me. So now I gotta take a pair of pliers and then wrench this thing out of the motherboard. So hopefully I don't damage it, but the last thing I expect on a motherboard that costs $150 to be having some type of USB issue where the somehow to where it actually grasps onto whatever I have and not letting it loose. Alright, I got it out. You see that little A-base silver tab right there? The one at the bottom USB port is what it's supposed to look like. That little tab was actually grasping onto the holes on the side of the USB plug. It was not allowing it to come loose. Luckily, I knew that was the issue, but I had to wrench on it quite a bit to get it to finally let loose. So the next step is to figure out how I'm going to fan wire cable manage the fans and whatnot, and figure out what fan's going to go to what header. Alright, got all the fans installed. Everything's lighting up. It is very much unicorn vomit. But all the fans work. All the lighting works. So the next step is to connect everything else. Try and cable manage as much as I can, because unfortunately there are certain cables like this guy right here that I'm not going to be able to do anything about. I really want to swap this fan out for one of the deep cool fans, because I do have a spare fan laying around. But when it comes to RGB and fan headers, especially RGB headers, I don't think I can stick another RGB fan on there without blowing out or not blowing out, but without risking overdriving the ARGB header. And now I have something delicious to watch as I am putting together my secondary rig. Thank you, Frit, for streaming tonight like you're saying you're going to. Now I'm going to be very much entertained as we watch Tard King get BTFO'd. Well, it definitely looks a little weird with a white fan in front of a black heatsink, but at least I have the same colors throughout the computer now. What I did with the second fan is I just plugged the PWM in, but I did not plug in the RGB, because the RGB on this Corsair fan is, let's be honest, hot trash compared to the RGB on the deep cool fans I'm using. So now I gotta go and cable manage everything, and that's going to take like an hour or two. Alright, got everything set up. All the drivers are installed, excluding the RGB control for my GPU. I need to download that down the road, but with that said, it's now all ready to go. I will change the rainbow bar to white, but for the time being I have it to rainbow bar because, let's be honest, it gets the views, unfortunately. As you can see, I'm getting an image on my display and it's booting directly to the desktop. And there we go. And unfortunately, I do have a squeaky fan, this guy right here. If it gets really audible, I'm going to contact Deepcool, especially considering I just got these fans. But it seems to be at a certain RPM, so I may just need to bump these fans up at like a slightly higher RPM. Currently, the case fans are all set to 40, while the the CPU fans are set to 50. So I may need to set these case fans both top and bottom, even though they're both separated. I may just set them all to like 45. That way, so any rattling that this thing does will go away, and plus I'll also provide just a little bit more airflow. But then again, this thing has very good airflow as it stands right now, considering it's all case fans. And I can't complain about it. It's a nice looking computer. And here's how I'm going to actually run the case. All white like I mentioned before. And I'm actually very happy with how well the front fan looks, and also how consistently white everything is. But then again, that's to be expected considering the case itself is also white. But thinking back of when I bought this case, I should have actually gone for a black case. That way, so the white would have popped even more. But hindsight 2020. I'll probably end up doing that for my main rig, because they're supposed to be coming out with a bigger version of this exact same case that can take the motherboard I currently have in my main rig. And it's supposed to be like $160 for basically the same case I currently have, just bigger, and an 8-inch display instead of a 7-inch display. But yeah, that's pretty much it for my secondary computer build.